Okay, so welcome to this week's episode of the Path Less Chosen, the podcast showing you the careers they don't teach you about in school. My name's Sol,
I'm Jamie.
and this week we have on Francis. Francis is founder of 5 Minutes to Delhi, which which is a convenient Indian food. I'm sure I've not done that justice, so I'm going to let Francis introduce himself in a little bit of time. But Jamie, more importantly, if someone is listening to this and wants to know what they can expect from the next 40 minutes of their time, please let them know what that might be.
Yeah, so it's going to be an exciting one and an amazing business journey that he's on. So Francis is going to tell us exactly how you can start a food business yourself. He's also going to tell us about the times when his friends were worried about him and why. And the third is how there was two books that he read that completely changed his outlook on life and careers. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Buzzing. Let's get him on.
Okay, perfect. Well, Francis, thanks so much for joining us. Really looking forward to hearing a bit more about your business, which is 5 Minutes to Delhi. I think initially we like to start off with a bit of a spicy question, and I thought my
Seems
Uh,
fitting.
if you
yeah,
if you pardon the pun,
exactly.
definitely didn't do that on purpose.
I didn't, but I should have thought about that beforehand. But yeah, anyway, the product and obviously your business, I thought would be a great fit for something that would appear perhaps on Dragon's Den. So I thought initially what we could start with is pitch to us your business and summarize exactly what it is, as if you were on your first minute on a Dragon's Den pitch.
Okay, so I want you to picture this. You've just got home from work and you've had a long, hard day. It's cold, it's dark, you're tired, you're stressed, and you go to the kitchen, you open the fridge door, and there's nothing there. You're not going to order another takeaway, you're not going to go to the supermarket. So what do? You take a step to the side, you reach into your cupboard, and lo and behold, you find a 5 minutes to Delhi. And in just 5 minutes, you can have a restaurant-style Indian dish, completely authentic, without any preservatives, all natural ingredients that taste amazing and is gonna do the job much better than those nasty takeaways. So 5 minutes to Delhi brings the authentic flavors of India to the UK in just 5 minutes. I mean, 5 to 8 minutes depending on the dishes, but we roll with five. And it's yeah, I'm trying to give a better, healthier alternative to takeaways that give the convenience and the taste and the satisfaction without the downsides, essentially, at a very, very affordable price. So, that would be my 1 minute pitch.
Unbelievable. Yeah, very good. I mean, we're definitely not as nasty as the Dragons, but you've convinced me on it. It sounds an amazing concept. I guess the most obvious question that we like to ask, considering we're speaking to people about random paths less chosen that they've gone down, is where on earth did this idea come from, and what's led you down this path?
Yeah, so, you have to rewind to 2016 when I went to Cardiff University. So it was, you know what it's like when you go into halls. I don't know if were you guys in halls in first year? Yeah. So you never know who you're going to get, paired up with. And it turned out I was with two guys from India. And coming from Oxford, I'd never really mixed with people outside of my own kind of demographic, if you like. So I was really, really excited to mingle with some people from a whole other world. And yeah, it turned out we really got along. And it didn't take long before I met more and more people from India through those guys. And, they always told me that one day I'd have to come to India and see them. And I said, I'm going to come, but India is such a big, diverse country. I've got so many of you guys to see from north, south, east, west that I just didn't want to do it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I wanted to really lose myself in the culture. And that opportunity finally came in 2022. And when I was there, I got introduced to these freeze-dried foods. And just for context, during my time in Cardiff, I kind of observed my friends and seen the struggles they had with food. So they were too busy or didn't want to cook. They would order a lot of takeaway. Indian food as well is very, very laborious, very labor intensive to cook. You've got a pressure cooker one side, a saucepan here, you've got a blender here, blending up, to make pastes, and it's crazy, it's hectic, and it's a lot of work, and can genuinely take 2 to 3 hours to make like a real, authentic curry from scratch. So it just wasn't going to happen. There was no way they had the time or the motivation to do that. And yeah, I just saw how much money they wasted. They didn't even enjoy the food as well. They just ordered it because they felt like they had no other option. So I kind of put two and two together and I thought there's something to be done here because no one was doing freeze-dried foods in the UK. There are obviously other Indian food brands, but this was like the most authentic, natural way to bring the flavors to the UK. So, I kind of did well, what I know you did as well. So I moved back in with my parents and started on the journey and started building the brand. But for context as well, I should also tell you I studied politics and international relations at university, which I've done absolutely nothing with. So all three of us outliers. So yeah, in my first year, my father gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I read that book, and it just blew my mind. Until then, if you asked me what I was going to do in my life, I'd have said, I want to get into international security because it just sounded cool. And I was studying politics. I didn't really know. But yeah, that book changed everything for me because I saw, I got introduced to this idea of the rat race and of, financial freedom. And the idea of not having to trade my time for money, especially doing something for someone else, building someone else's dream and just taking a tiny, tiny slither of the pie. Suddenly that notion just seemed so ridiculous to me. And, I kind of became obsessed with those books. The second one I read was The 4 Hour Workweek. And it just kind of, yeah, it spiraled from there. And I actually applied to switch course from politics to business in second year, and they rejected me. I didn't get good enough A-level results, which turned out to be a blessing because business as a course to get the same grade I got with my degree would have been a lot more work, and they wouldn't have given me much time to socialize and build the connections that I did because I realized quite quickly, my friends from India, they were from very, very interesting backgrounds, from business families, political families, and I'd never mixed with people like that before. And just setting that aside, obviously they were just incredible people, and this opened my eyes up to this whole new world of culture and of just life, really. And it just really, really excited me. So that's kind of the origin story, if you like.
So we come back to moving in with your parents and deciding to build
Mm,
this, but even just before that, like I love the story of you having kind of not much experience there, but then seeing this like problem that your friends had. But
mm,
there's a few gaps to fill in as to how that actually turned into a business that you wanted to move home with your parents and
sure.
build. What made you see the problem, but then take it all the way into an actual business?
So few things going on here, a few moving parts. The first thing was, yeah, just being a fly on a wall observer. I like to think of myself as a. I've always thought of myself as an observer. I like to observe. I like to see what's going on, and I like to think about it. Why are people doing this? I like to connect the dots, and I think as an entrepreneur as well, that's something you're always doing. You're questioning why are people doing this, and is there a better way of doing it? Is there a problem to solve? Is there a desire to be fulfilled, etc., etc.? And yeah, just seeing how ridiculous the amount of money they spend on food and how much of it would get wasted. That was one thing. In terms of the kind of business side, so our first business didn't work out, and I my first thought was, right, now is the time to go to India. It's still kind of the COVID period where we were going in and out of lockdowns, a lot of uncertainty. So I thought, right, I'm going to use this time not to get a corporate job, not to put my degree to any use. I'm just going to use this time to work on myself, to read more, to develop some skills, and to also heal from the kind of stress from the first business because, it was a very, very stressful time. I just told myself there will come a day when the borders do open, and when they do, I'll be gone. And that's what happened. And I have it all in my journal. I wrote this kind of passage entry in my journal saying that I'm going to go to India and I'm going to come back with a viable, solid business idea. I don't know what it's going to be. I could never have told you it's going to be freeze-dried foods, but I just knew and I trusted in that. And it's I should have got it actually. I should have got my journal ready, but it's there. It's signed. It's dated, and that's exactly what happened. So I think that gives you some of the story of how the pieces started fitting together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just a crazy story, right? And I think anyone that's kind of looking from the outside, I think that context is actually quite important because at the end of the
Mm,
day, you're a white British guy that has a
mm.
vegan Indian business. And I think that's an obvious question, but to hear the passion that you have behind it is that now is starting to make a lot of sense as to that journey and the fact that you went to India to discover this.
Right. Yeah. No, it's it's crazy how things happen sometimes, when you kind of have put that intention out there. I'm a big believer in, manifestation. And I don't think anyone gets something for nothing, but I do believe that if you tell yourself you're gonna do something or you're gonna find a way to do something, I think miracles seem to happen. Things people um knowledge even shows up at the right time. And I've seen that happen time and time again. And I do genuinely believe it all starts with that choice. And I made that choice. and it's crazy because I wasn't afraid because I knew the downside, I knew the risk. The idea of not doing that seemed so much more scary than doing it, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Because I knew I didn't want to stay in Cardiff any longer. I knew that I wasn't going to get a job. I'd closed so many. I was pretty unemployable as well. I'm a very unemployable person because I've got so many gaps in my CV, and I just knew I had to make it work. So that's what life is now, just one day at a time, making this work.
Yeah, makes sense. And why the vegan side of things? So you've explained the Indian side, but why the vegan side?
So, first of all, it was always going to be a vegetarian because for religious reasons, you've got a lot of Indians who are vegetarian or vegan. Second thing is that most factories were like pure veg factories. So, with in the Indian culture, there's a mark which certifies that it's like a pure veg facility, which is very, very important for like religious and cultural
Right.
reasons. But in terms of how it ended up being vegan, it's actually just because it was a lot less headache with border control bringing it into the UK. So when you have products of animal origin, you need a lot of certifications, you need a lot of accreditations, etc. So vegan was just the most straightforward way of doing it. And also, I realized the potential with the British market because obviously, veganism is a growing thing in the UK and in the world generally. So yeah, but being completely honest, it was the most straightforward way of doing it.
Is like obviously now bringing it forward a little bit to being like, okay, so you set up the business. I like following this in like a bit of a timeline. So you set up the business,
Mm.
which again is like something we just brush over, but like we all know, all three of us know how hard that actually is to do as a concept. How the hell you had this idea? How the hell do you go up setting a food business with not even a food business that is like, okay, this is just the fresh ingredient. You sell the fresh ingredient, you make it. Like,
Mm.
there's a lot of logistics involved in your business with the packaging and putting the food together. So tell us how the hell you went about doing that.
So yeah, and that's the thing is I didn't, although I had this short stint with the first company, I do not have a background in business, and that like I didn't really learn much about. I arguably I learned some things about sales and negotiation and marketing, but like import export, the logistical, supply chain, all of that is like a whole nother game. And honestly, I just winged it. I'm still winging it. I still have no idea what I'm doing. I just, the way I explain it to everyone, because it's funny. It started off, as we said, as this idea. Okay, cool. I'm back from India. I'm gonna build this brand. I'm gonna import food. I'm gonna sell it. And every single day was just a series of to-do lists and just things getting ticked off. And like that is honestly, when I look, I don't know how many to-do lists. I'm sure you both can relate. I'm sure we can all relate. We all write to-do lists, right? But it's like, yeah, I didn't really think of it as like a big or unknown thing. I just thought of it as like, okay, just got to figure out one thing at a time. And again, this is where I'm fortunate that I've got an incredible network of people who are able to help me because it was like, right, first thing I need is packaging. Or no, first thing I need is a logo. So, one of my friends in India connected me with someone who's a designer, who's now actually my head of branding, and she has been with me for over 2 years. She's the one who made 5 Minutes of Delhi turn from an idea in my mind to what it is now. I couldn't have done this without her. She's absolutely phenomenal. And the story about the name as well, I got to tell you. So it was just after I come back from India. I was catching up with one of my childhood friends, one of my really, really close friends, and we were sat having a coffee. And I was telling him about this brand that I was going to build, this idea I had, and I was stuck on a name. And we were just sipping our americanos and eating our croissants. And then I was mid sentence or something, and he just said 5 minutes of Delhi, and I was like, what? He was like 5 minutes of Delhi, and I was like, hmm. And actually, I was a little bit opposed to the name at first, and I'll tell you why. India, as you would know, is a very, very large and diverse country. And, the south of India, for example, a lot of people would say it's like a completely different country to the north. The foods are different, the weather's different, the clothes are different. And, a lot of people, there's not always that identification and association and harmony, let's say. So I didn't want to exclude some people at the risk of, just using the word, using the place of Delhi. But then I also thought, well, actually, I feel like that's a name that would really resonate with the British audience, which at this point wasn't really my focus. My focus was purely going to be on the Indian demographic because that was who I knew and who I kind of knew the problems and the day in the life of, if you like, when it came to food. But yeah, that kind of happened, and I ended up rolling with it because I had terrible ideas of names, absolutely terrible. And this was a little bit prior to Chat GPT as well. Could have ended up different. It would have been, who knows. But yeah, that's how it happened. And then suddenly I had a logo. Then suddenly I had a first draft of packaging, and it was quite funny because a lot of my friends, I've got amazing friends. That's one thing I will say. I've got incredible friends, but they weren't sure, and they were concerned. A lot of them had said at points, we're worried about you, man. Like, you could get a nice graduate role. It was around May 2023. At this point, I'm living at home with my parents. I haven't even got a job, a part-time job, because I told myself if I get a job, I am not going to be able to get this done. I'm going to get distracted. I'm going to be too tired because I went into full-blown student mode. I was studying marketing, business, leadership, all of these things. These skills I knew I had to learn, and that's why I just lived incredibly frugally. And again, very, very lucky to have supportive parents who were able to do that for me. And I was definitely living, and still am living, a very, very humble life, which I'm okay with. But yeah, I'll never forget when I was sat there in central London somewhere having some drinks with my friends. We just got a round of tequilas, and it was sunny. I got out my phone and I was like, guys, I'm going to show you the first draft of the packaging. And their jaws just dropped, because that was when they realized that it wasn't just some like gimmicky thing. I was actually going to build something real, tangible, something that, I would catch the eye and that I'd be proud to show. And that was when they shut up, basically. That was when, they kind of realized that I was serious about this. And there are a whole series of delays over the coming months. It takes a long time to do anything that's worth doing, right? You guys both know that. I know it. Nothing happens overnight. Overnight success, just with what we're trying to do, it isn't really that much of a thing. Slowly but surely, the pieces came together one by one. Then by the end of the summer, I was almost ready to go, and I was just waiting for some things on my supplier's side. And I got that first consignment in. It was actually 2 days after my birthday, November 2023, and that was when I launched.
I love that. I think that's it's a really interesting point you make just there about Jamie and I have spoken quite a lot about that moment when you speaking to
Mm,
your friends and the kind of crazy things you've been talking about and the crazy dream that you speak about, and then it actually, like, you see on your friends' faces when it's actually like, oh, they're actually doing something. Oh, they're actually, for me it was like embarrassingly almost when I shared how much, like I was doing on my story, and someone was like, "Oh, well,
mm,
there's actually a business here. Like, he's actually doing something." I think for Jamie, it was a kind of an equally interesting story to go through, and it's funny that you resonate with that. I think that's a lot of an experience that a lot of entrepreneurs have when people around them, their family and their friends actually realize they're doing something. Like, how did you navigate with the environment before that when it was a bit of a, say, a joke, or people were even saying they were worried about you? How did you deal with that?
honestly, I I just knew I was going to do it. Like, I can't explain it. I don't know if I can articulate it, but it felt like my life's plan. It felt like fate, or it felt like the universe's plan for me. As much as some people might find that cheesy or corny, that is what I believe. And it felt like it was my duty and responsibility to do it. The idea of doing anything else just seemed ridiculous. And, I'd been searching for that big, exciting business idea. I've always loved Indian food, even before I knew what real Indian food actually tasted like. And it just felt right. And I think it's that whole thing about trusting your gut, trusting your instinct. Again, as much as we've heard that so many times, it's damn true. Sometimes things just feel right in life, and I think you've just got to roll with it. And again, my friends, as much as they would take the mick, um, there's a lot of jokes about, Francis is sat at home counting rice grains instead of counting stacks of money. And their support was always there. They just didn't understand it. And one thing I will say is, they did, even if they didn't believe in the idea at that point, they did believe in me, even if they couldn't understand it. Because, again, as I've spoken to you about before, Sol, my friends are all in very much corporate jobs, lawyers, engineers, etc. Amazing careers, but just not me. So yeah, I think that kind of deluded sense of self belief as well, just knowing that you're gonna figure it out. And it does feel delusional sometimes because everything around you, your external environment, you know, people around you are saying that you're on the wrong path, but there's just that one kind of North Star that you're looking up at the whole time. And you just got to follow that North Star and hope that it brings gold, incense, and is it myrrh? Myrrh? Myrrh?
Yeah,
Myrrh. Yeah.
good knowledge of the Bible. That, yeah, no, it's a
There we go.
fascinating answer. I love that message about like following a North Star, and you said there obviously a lot of that answer was focused around relationships with other people, obviously what your friends are saying, but then also some of the really like amazing full circle moments and positive relationships that obviously allowed you to do what you're doing as a business now. And I think that was
Right.
probably one of my key questions is you're in the food business, but you're not a chef and you're not an Indian food expert, but you're the kind of mastermind behind this business. So what are the kind of complications that come with that?
Generally speaking, I wouldn't advise people to take business advice from friends because people will say things are nice even when they're not, etc. However, I do have some Indian friends that are very direct. You know, Francis, you put on weight. What's going on? You know, when they haven't seen me for a few weeks. So and they knew as well this was my future. You know, that I was putting on the line here. So they had to give me honest feedback. And of course, because I wanted to target Indians, I wanted to know that it was truly authentic and it wasn't going to be through my white westernized taste buds or whatever. So yeah, I got them to try. It was a case of, it was the morning after a night out. We'd all had a night out together. We hadn't seen each other for ages. And yeah, I said, right, guys, brunch is sorted. Sit down. And I just brought out all the dishes and one by one, we ticked them, we crossed them. And it was, again, I'm not saying other people should be as informal and casual as this. Market research is definitely advised. I just went for it. I just went for it. And I selected the dishes then and there. And yeah, that was all kind of done, matched up with the packaging and the designs accordingly. But in terms of yeah, so you asked kind of how, you know, the complications and such. The biggest challenge, and it's still a challenge I face now, it's something I'm getting better at, but do still struggle with, is stock management. Because obviously, you know, the food's got to be cooked and freeze dried in India, and then it's got to be packaged and it's got to be shipped over, and you know that takes time, and there's a lot of moving parts in that. And you know, you're not just relying on one person either. You're relying on different people, different organizations, different layers. But yeah, you know, the biggest challenge is stock management.
Super interesting. And then like, I guess we touched on the challenges, and we are super interested about that as like as a concept. But with all the challenges, like in general, just like how has life been? Are you absolutely buzzing? You've done what you've done. Do you regret it? And what is life like on the daily basis for you?
Yeah. So, you know, first of all, do I regret it? I regret absolutely nothing at all. I regret nothing. It's the best decision I ever made. There are no regrets. There are challenges. There are a lot of challenges, but it's all just about trying to be 1% better every day. And again, we've heard that 1,000 times, but I get it. I'm really starting to kind of understand that it's not me versus the other people I see on my algorithm. It's me versus the me of yesterday, you know, and of the week before and the year before. How can I keep on improving myself, improving my skill set, developing my character so that I can keep on moving towards becoming the person I need to be? Because the person I am now is not the person who's going to do what I really want to do with this business. The person I was 2 months ago couldn't do what I'm doing now with the business. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's like, it's a continual development, and it's an understanding that if I want to change my business, I want to change my life, I have to change. And that's, you know, that's a reality check in itself. It's, you know, means looking at your habits, at your disciplines or lack thereof, looking at how you're spending your time. And yeah, you know, I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is just knowing how I'm going to beat the Francis of yesterday. But in terms of the day to day, honestly, you know, it's so much creativity. I love it. In the morning, I block out time. You know, besides on a Sunday today, I have no meetings in the morning because that is my most creative time. The first few hours of the day, that's when I'm doing, you know, ideation for ads, for content, for landing pages. That's when I get my best ideas. So I just want to be in the zone, in flow state, scripting, brainstorming, scribbling, etc., etc. In the afternoon, that's when I kind of will have meetings, when I'll pack orders. I am still the one packing the orders and sending them out. By the end of this year, I will not be. You know, you heard it here first. That is one big goal, is to be more hands off by the end of this year. But yeah, you know, there's another challenge as well, wearing. In fact, yeah, one of the biggest challenges is wearing all of the hats. So, by morning I might be a digital marketer. By afternoon, I might be an email copywriter. By night, I might be an accountant. It's crazy the number of different hats you have to wear on a different on a daily basis, on an hour by hour basis, even minute by minute. Sometimes I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just winging it and figuring it out, and just trying to get better and better at wearing each of those hats on a day by day basis. So the day by day is monotonous. It's the same stuff day in day out. It's not all creativity, excitement, but it's enough that it kind of is still very, very exciting for me. And the most important thing is that it's fulfilling. It's when you're doing something for yourself, and especially when you make these hit these milestones, or make these achievements by yourself. When you're doing it for yourself, there's a feeling that's just incomparable to any kind of other work environment experience I've ever had.
Amazing. It's fascinating to hear you listen to. Like, yes, it's really useful for us to obviously hear the kind of like honest insights into the day to day, and even the fact that you describe it sometimes as monotonous, a lot of the same thing. Exactly what you say. The most important thing for you is that is exciting, and you're getting the kind of out of it, and clearly building something really special, which is proper exciting. To go in more on the future of this, because I think obviously what you're doing as the ready meals, but like healthy, and like the convenience, replacing making takeaways more guilt-free. Do you think that's the future of food? And then to add as an extension of that, what part in that future of food does 5 minutes to deli play?
So to answer that question, first of all, I'm going to grab something. This is my 5 minutes to deli business milestones. Okay. So, but this has a dual purpose. It's milestones, but it's also goals. And it says right here, this is my North Star. 5 minutes a deli will become a global leading brand in the South Asian convenience food space. That is a big, big, big goal. And who the hell am I to make such a claim? But one day I'm confident it will. And it's not even just about me, it's about the product. I believe in this product so much. I've had enough assurance from other people now, from paying customers, time and time again, that this product is game changing. As much as I don't like that word when it comes to marketing, it is game changing. And there is so much more I want to do with the brand, So the first thing is, right now I'm purely e-commerce, well, almost purely e-commerce business. I've been in, and I'm in a couple of small independent like retail stores, but I want to be in the big supermarkets. Within a couple of years, I want to be on the shelves in Tesco, in Waitrose, and all of those. And I want to. If Uncle Ben can do it, why can't Francis? That's the way I see it. The second thing is to expand internationally. There's more and more Indians are going to study all over Europe, the US. People are living in Australia as well. Like the demand for Indian food just globally is growing and growing and growing. And there is no reason why we cannot be in, multiple countries in the coming years. The other thing as well is that I see 5 minutes a deli as a physical location as well, as a fast casual dining kind of experience where people can come and grab a bite, taste real authentic Indian food that's, not like you would find at local restaurants. And, it also is well expanding into things like spices one day as well. Something you call ready to cook, which is like masala mixes. So if you're making a chicken biryani, instead of mixing out the 15 different spices, all of them are just in one kind of packet. If that makes sense. And and more. Take it even further than that. And I just think the thing I'm most excited about, the single biggest thing, is this whole idea of building a brand that is just, really known and recognized and loved, and that people have an emotional attachment to. No one's ever going to be as emotionally attached to it as I am. But, already I've been interviewing some customers this week on calls. And, one guy said that at his work, in his office, he just pulls out his drawer and he has his 5 minutes of delis there, and he's given them to work colleagues as well. And it's like, to think of my food in workplaces being handed out is just mind blowing to me, and it's emotional, because it's like, this brand truly is a reflection of my journey through life so far. It's, as I said, if I wasn't in flat 2R of Taliban Court in Cardiff, it wouldn't be here, and it's just mind blowing. So there is so much I want to do with it. This is just the start. I've kind of got that bug now, that entrepreneurial bug, where I can see the excitement in building things. Now, don't get me wrong. This is just like 1% into the journey of 5 minutes to Delhi, but I'm just saying I'm never going to limit myself by saying this is it. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Because why? Why would I want to do that? There's such a big, wide world of opportunities to explore, and I just think, you know, as humans, we're capable of so much more than we realize. When it comes to that whole sink or swim thing, I'm sure both of you have really surprised yourself at points as well with what you've been able to achieve. And I just think, yeah, I want to take 5 minutes to Delhi to the moon, and then see what happens there.
But man, so cool. Very inspiring to hear, as I always say when listening to you. So thanks very much for sharing, mate. And as I love to say for the last question is let's throw it back to a time when you were in that time. Maybe if you were at your
Oh,
parents' house,
yeah.
and we asked our guests the same question, which is back to that time when you were questioning things. What's one thing you do the same? What's one thing you do differently? And what's one thing you tell yourself to motivate yourself?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the easier one. So the thing that I would do the same is to just have unwavering belief in my product, because this product truly is like nothing else on the market in the UK. Again, there are other Indian products, but there's nothing like this. And I just had that silly, stupid, overconfident belief that somehow, because I have a great product, I'm going to figure it out. And, by no means have I figured it out yet, but I'm figuring it out day by day, week by week. So that is the thing I would do the same. The thing I would do differently, honestly, it's funny to have you here, Sol, but I would have started telling the story on social media earlier. At the beginning, I was very afraid to get in front of the brand, because I was trying to target Indians in the UK. I didn't want them to think it wasn't going to be authentic. And what's been interesting with my brand is I've had a very big pivot. It was about August, September last year. Suddenly, even though I was running ads in Hindi, one of the languages spoken predominantly in the north, I was getting a lot of orders from British customers. And at that point, I always knew I was going to get British customers. But from all of the marketing I'd studied, everyone always said, pick a niche, start small, really strongly resonate and connect with that audience so that they become diehard fans, and then, broaden the horizons, widen the scope. And, that's kind of what I did essentially. So at the beginning, I didn't want to get in front of the camera. Because I was trying to target Indians, I didn't want them to think, oh, it's just going to be another, westernized Indian food brand. So, that in fact, actually, as we've spoken about, has turned out to be my biggest superpower, is the fact that I am the white British guy who has loads of Indian friends, who's been to India multiple times and spent months there traveling all around. That is my superpower, and that's now what I'm leveraging. So, again, I don't live life with the regret, and I genuinely don't have any regrets when it comes to 5 minutes a day. But if there was one thing that I could arguably, go back and tell the previous version of Francis, then it would be get out there and tell people your story. One thing I would say to myself back then to motivate myself: if I want to sell more, if I want to make more money, I have to make more knowledge. I have to make more skills in here. I have to keep on getting better. I am getting back exactly what I deserve based on where I am right now. And when you start thinking of things like that, although it's scary and it's a brutally hard, cold truth, it's actually empowering, because you realize you can make as much money as you want, you can sell as many units as you want. It's just you have to become that person through learning and education and practical testing to get there. And I love that, because it means it's all on me. It's not on other people. I can take this as far as I want, so long as I'm willing to put the work in on myself and on the business. So that is what I would say to myself. And of course, the classic of just keep believing in yourself, man. There have been a lot of points where there were points in those early months where I had 16 different tabs open on my laptop. One of them to do with 5 minutes a day, the rest all to do with Indeed jobs. Looking, like, seeing, like, thinking, oh no, have I fucked this? And yeah, it is just that thing of just believing in yourself and knowing that you can figure it out if you're persistent.
Nice, amazing. Awesome answer, mate, and thank you so much. I mean, all of the information you've shared with us and the insight. I mean, the way you think about it and building a business, it's no wonder you've got that entrepreneurial bug, really, because it's fascinating to hear you talk about it. And I'm very confident that this business is obviously going to go to huge heights, and then I'm sure you're going to start something else, which is going to be amazing, also. So fair play to you,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, once again, really appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us. I think you've provided a lot of really useful insights for anyone out there that's considering starting a business in a particularly niche area and in a particularly tricky area in the food business. So fair play to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I feel that was an interesting experience. I felt a little bit more robotic than I would have liked, but it was no, it was a lot of fun. So I appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Okay, amazing episode. Always great to chat to Francis. Why don't you fire off first, Jamie?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the biggest takeaway for me was a really interesting concept and idea that I don't think we've ever had from anyone before, where he phrased it as the idea of having your own personal North Star and kind of just seeing that as that's the point that you want to reach and that's the kind of goal and ambition that you want to eventually get to. And he did mention that maybe sometimes that comes down to having a bit of a deluded sense of self-belief. But he said there was times where when anyone was doubting him, he was like, I just know I'm going to pull this off. And all he had eyes for was that North Star. He was like, that's the point I'm going to eventually get to. I'm going to reach it. It doesn't matter how I'm going to get there. I've got the self-belief that I am going to get there. And I guess that's what it takes, right, to become a successful in business or successful in any kind of career that maybe is a bit unusual and other people might not be so confident and supportive about. His friends were worried about him at a point, but to him, he always knew, and he'd written it down in his journal, which is obviously an important point where he had it in mind. He knew exactly where he was going, and that's how he's going to get there through deluded sense of self-belief, but having that North Star is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I could not agree more. The North Star is very cool, and I love the delusion that he showed in a great way. Of course, I think my second takeaway would be linked to he said at the end, which like he was very clear in saying it's a cliche to say 1% better, but as a business owner, your business is a great reflection of yourself as a person. And I think what was cool with Francis is he was very clear that he wanted to get better, and like even working with me in social media, he wants to get better in that. But working on his accounting or his ads, he's always looking to get better, and that was a cool thing to see. Is that it was like a very much a reflection of his own personal self development, his business, and he was
Yeah.
always looking to get better, which was I think a cool thing.
Yeah, no, really, really good point and an amazing message. Again, probably part of what it takes if you're looking at someone who's going to be successful in business. We've just named a couple of things you probably have to have, right? And that mindset to get better every day is obviously vital. And then for mine, I think to slightly go back to before 5 minutes to Delhi began. But the fact that he already had a business that he'd started, it failed, and we hear lots of stories around. There are some businesses that fail. People have kind of obstacles that they hit and then challenges, and that failure actually can be a point where you either go on to the next big thing and learn from that, or that's when people maybe quit. And he did say there was times when he had like Indeed tabs open to look for another job, but for him, he took that moment where he had left the property job as he mentioned it was using that time to work on himself, and that was when he decided to go to India. And he knew that when he was in India, the mission was to come up with a viable business idea because he didn't want to go down the corporate route. And the fact that he just took that time out is actually something that I guess some people don't have the kind of luxury of doing that because you always have to maybe be working and bringing in money. But he was in a position there where he's like, right, now's the time to do it. And just simply by him taking a few months off to take time to work on himself and think about a viable business idea has led him to where he is now. So it's a kind of pausing stuff for the time being to obviously lead to something much bigger in the future. And actually, that's something that if you're able to do it, maybe just taking a little bit of time off to just focus on purely everything yourself, all of your ideas, might then ultimately lead you down that perfect path less chosen that you're going to feel really passionate about. And I thought, that was a key takeaway if you have the luxury of being able to do that.
Yeah, agreed. And like that, obviously very similar in my journey as well with going back to my parents' house and all that sort of thing. Like if you can take that break off and take the pressure off yourself, it's super nice. So yeah, definitely resonate with that one. Cool. So three takeaways: know your North Star and have that very clear in your journey. Second one is personal development is super important alongside a business, or at least making sure you develop yourself all the time while in that business. And then the third one is take the breaks off if you need to, because it's sometimes really important to align yourself in the right direction. Okay, great episode. Enjoyed that a lot. Obviously, great to chat to Francis, and yeah, looking forward to catching you next week. Thank you very much for your time listening.